Good afternoon to all of y'all. Today we are going to see the basics of current electricity. We have learned in our younger classes that electric current is flow of charges. But just saying flow of charges will not do. If you take a conductor, it has got free electrons. These free electrons are randomly moving about in the body of the conductor, which is usually a metal. Now, electric current is defined for a particular area. So, let us say you have a conductor and there is a certain area A that we have defined. Now, if you see the electrons are in random motion. So, an electron from here would come here, electron from here would go there. There would be so much of crisscrossing. Electrons would keep moving from one side to the other. So there is motion of charges. So is there a current? Is the question. The answer is no. Because overall, as many electrons that cross from the left hand side to the right hand side, that many have crossed from the right hand side to the left hand side. So net, there has been no crossover from one side of the area to the other side. So there is no current. So simply saying that flow of charges is current will not do. So current is defined as the net flow of charge across the area, across the chosen area, across the defined area per unit time. So charge is in coulomb and coulomb per second is ampere. So current is measured in ampere. Now we must note that when we say net charge, supposing for instance this is the area and minus 60 coulombs of charge is crossed to this side, and let us say minus 20 coulomb of charge has flown to the other side in a given time, maybe 1 second or whatever time t you may take. Now the net flow of charge is minus 40 on this side, minus 40 coulomb towards the right. Now current as a convention is the direction of the flow of positive charges. So the direction of current will not be shown towards the right. Minus 40 coulomb flowing to the right is equivalent to plus 40 coulomb flowing to the left. So therefore the current is towards the left. Conventional current is the direction of flow of positive charges. So this will be 10 coulombs. So if you have let us say I say there is plus 40 coulombs this way, there is 20 plus 20 coulombs this way, there is 30 minus 30 coulombs this way, and let us say there is minus 60 coulombs this way. We want to know the direction of the current in a particular time this has flown. So how do we do that? First of all, keep this 40 as it is, minus 30 put it as plus 30 here, minus 60 put it as plus 60 the other side, 20 keep it as it is because it is positive. So 40 plus 30 is 70, 20 plus 60 is 80. So net there is a 20 plus 20 coulomb charge towards the left. So the current I would be 20 coulomb by the time. 20 coulomb by the time. It will be towards the left. Now, so when we say current I is the charge flown by the time, this is the average current because it is over a certain time interval which may be quite long. So I, when you say is Q by T, charge by time, that is coulomb per second. Q by T ampere, we'll call it. Coulomb by second is ampere. Q by T is the average current over a period of time interval T. Now the question is, how do you get the instantaneous current? How do you get? So we use the idea of calculus here, and we take an infinitesimal time dt, small time tending to 0, time tending to 0, not 0 but tending to 0. It's a calculus concept. Those of you who are familiar with calculus will understand this easily. Otherwise, you can just pick this up, that I is equal to dq by dt. dq is the infinitesimal charge flowing in an infinitesimal time. dt, this is the instantaneous current. Now the next important thing we would like to see and ask is, current has got a direction. So is it a vector? We know all quantities which have a magnitude and a direction are called as vectors. So is current a vector? Well, it may seem so that it is a vector, because if you take an area like that, current is flowing from left to right. Current is flowing from left to right. So there is a direction, and hence you may say that, well, yes, current has got a direction, therefore it's a vector. But if you go at the microscopic level, the charges would not be flowing in the same direction. For example, I take a small area dA here, there would be a current this way, there would be a current this way, there would be a current this way, this way, this way, this way. So at the microscopic level, you find that the current does not have a unique direction. There are so many directions in which the charges flow. So we can call all this as di, infinitesimal current, di. All these add up to I. Okay, all these will add up to I. So therefore, we find that we cannot treat current as a vector, because it doesn't have a unique direction. But there is a necessity to define current or some other similar quantity as a vector. What is the reason for that? It is because current charges which are there, they drift through the conductor because of an electric field. Electric field is a vector, and it is defined at every point. From point to point, the electric field may vary, but with a uniform electric field, it will be the same everywhere. So it is the electric field which moves charges. So therefore, since electric field is a vector and you want to relate it to the current, and current is not a vector, there is a need to define some quantity as related to current as a vector. Now let us take an infinitesimal area dA. If you take an infinitesimal area dA, the current would be di. The current would be di. Now in an infinitesimal area, that is an area tending to 0, the direction would be unique. Di has got a unique direction. Now what we basically do is, we define a quantity known as current density, we call it as J, as the current per unit area held normal to the flow of current. Yes, current density J as the current flowing per unit area held normal to the flow of current. Now let us see, this flow of current is not, the area is not normal to the flow of current. Let me draw that. Supposing I show the area, think that my palm is the area. I have shown, you are seeing this side view of my palm, a line I have shown, yes, and this is the normal to the area, and the current is moving at an angle theta, let us say. Okay, moving at an angle theta. So now we want the area, this area perpendicular to the flow of current. So what I will do is I will draw a line, two lines parallel to the flow of current, and drop a perpendicular from here. I will redraw this for you. Okay, an area. This is the normal. This is the direction of current di. I will draw those two parallel lines. And since I want an area, I will draw a perpendicular here now. Okay, I draw a perpendicular here now. Now you see this angle I am calling it as theta. This is area A, my palm. This is the area A. Now if you see, this is 90 here, this is a 90 here. And if you see, this is also 90. Let me mark this. This plus this is 90. Theta plus this angle is 90, and this angle plus this angle is also 90. So what I am trying to really say from geometry is that this angle is also theta. That angle is theta. So the area, if you apply trigonometry, this area would be A cos theta. This area would be A cos theta. Take a look, it is simple geometry. You should not have any difficulty in this, it should be quick. Should not be a problem. Again I will repeat, theta plus this is 90 and this plus this is 90. Therefore this is theta. So how do we define J now? The direction of J is in the direction of di, and the magnitude of J is di divided by d. This is not A, sorry, this is dA, infinitesimal area, dA. So it will be dA cos theta. So J is equals di current divided by the area held perpendicular to the flow of the current, di dA. Now we can rewrite this in a slightly different way. Di can be written as J dA cos theta. Now remember, in vectors we have learned dot product A dot B. A dot B is AB cos theta. So when we see the J dA cos theta, we feel that probably it can be written as a dot product. J is a vector, there is a cos theta. Now it remains to make the area vector, area also a vector. So what do? We have drawn this normal. So the area vector is defined as a vector normal to the surface. So this is vector dA by definition. So vector dA is, supposing this palm is my area, this pen becomes the area vector, but normal to the area. So that is dA. So now the angle between J and dA is theta. So di can be written as J dot dA. J dot dA. Di is J dot dA. Now you want the sum of all the currents, it will be, you will have to integrate. So integrate summation di, integral di is equal to I, it will be integral J dot dA. So I is equal to integral J dot dA. So here you must see that J is a microscopic quantity. It is a vector and a microscopic quantity. It is defined from point to point. I is a macroscopic quantity. It doesn't have a unique direction. Okay, there is a general direction we ascribe to I. Now what we are going to do is relate field intensity. The electric field intensity is a vector and it is a microscopic quantity. It is defined at a point. So J will nicely gel with the electric field intensity. I would not have, because I is not a vector, number one, and number two, it is not microscopic. So let us move ahead with that. Let us take the conductor and see a particular area. Take an area of cross section in the conductor. This is a conductor and there is an area A which we have defined, cross section area. Now electrons would be crossing in all directions. It would cross at some would cross at B1, another one at B2, another as V3, so on. If there are n electrons crossing this area, then we can, if we find the average velocity, V1 plus V2, so on up to Vn, divided by n, well, this quantity turns out to be 0. Because as I said, in the absence of an electric field, without an external electric field, there is no net flow of charge from one side to the other side. So this is 0. Now let us try to understand this. If there is an electric field, let us say there is an electric field. So the electric field will exert a force on a charge. If there is a charge Q, there will be a force QE. The electric field intensity is in Newton per Coulomb and the charge is in Coulomb. So the force in Newton will be the charge into the electric field intensity at the location of the charge. So you will get it in Newton's force, you will get it in Newton, it is a vector. Now you must note that if the charge is negative, yes, the force on the charge will be opposite to the electric field. If it is positive, it will be in the same direction as the electric field. Well, since we are dealing with electrons, the force on the electron would be minus E. E is the charge on the electron into E. That is the force. So if this force acts by Newton's law, there must be an acceleration. So the acceleration will be minus EE by ME, where ME is the mass of the electron. That is the acceleration. Now try to see what is happening. The electrons are in random motion because of collisions. They are between two collisions, they move in a straight line. But after a collision, their path gets deflected like a billiard ball in all sorts of directions. So therefore, only between two collisions it moves in a straight line, and it is at that time that the electric field acts on the electron and drifts it. So to say, supposing the electron is here and it goes here and collides with some electron, some other electron, or with the atom of the conductor. When this happens, within a time t1, let us say, now if there is an electric field, let's say in this direction, the electron would drift opposite to the electric field. So that means the drift will be towards the right. Since the electric field is towards the left, the drift will be towards the right. So therefore, instead of going here, it will reach here. This is the drift. This is the drift. It is not so large. Just for visual purpose, I have shown it enlarged, so enlarged. There is a very slight drift. Okay. This T1 is the time between, or instead of T1, sometimes they call it a tau 1. So I'll use that standard notation. So this is tau 1. So tau 1 is the time between collision. is the time between two successive collisions. Time between two successive collisions. Now, what is the velocity now? If you use the in motion in one dimension, you have learned v is equals to u plus at. You know this equation which we have. So we will now say the new velocity v, v1, I will call it as v1 prime, is equal to v1, which was the original velocity, and now the field is acting, acceleration is minus e by me into tau 1, that is v1 vectorially. Similarly, we can write for v2. v2 dash is equal to v2 minus e by me into tau 2. So on we can write up to vn. vn dash is equal to vn minus e by me into tau n. Now what we shall do is, we shall take the average of all this. The average of all this is what is called as the drift velocity. So the drift velocity under the influence of the electric field Vd, the drift velocity would be defined as v1 dash plus v2 dash so on up to vn dash by n. Now if you substitute those values, you will get v1 minus e by me into tau 1, first term. Second term would be v2 minus e by me into tau 2, so on it goes, divided by n. Now what you would have is the v1, v2, etc. up to v1, vn by n, we can have it here, and here we'll have minus e by me into tau 1 plus tau 2, so on up to tau n divided by n. This term we saw was 0. That is, in the absence of the electric field, this was the velocity and the average of all that is 0. And I can now write this as e by me, and the average of all these time between two collisions, we will call it as tau. Tau is the average time between two collisions. It is also called as the relaxation time, because that is the time when there is no collision and the electron is able to relax. Yes, so it is also called as the relaxation time. So the drift velocity, the expression for the drift velocity Vd is given as minus e tau by me into e. So I have this minus indicates that Vd is opposite to e. Now, next thing we would like to do is find the expression for the current in terms of the drift velocity. We would like to do that. So what we will do now is, we will consider an infinitesimal area dA, and this is the normal, and here at this location there is an electric field E at that location. This is dA, this is dA, this is vector dA, this is surface dA, and there is an electric field, the angle is theta. Now obviously the electrons will get drifted opposite to E. So the drift velocity would be like this, Vd would be like this. If Vd is like that, well, the current, because it is an electron, the current is, the conventional current will be in this direction. Di would be in this direction. Okay. Now if this is theta, I am now going to say in a time t, by how much does do the electrons move? If the drift velocity is Vd, obviously the distance moved in a time t will be Vd into t. So let me show it like this. This distance will be Vd into t. This area we saw was dA cos theta. So this volume, yes, this is drifting in a time t. So this volume would be, the volume is going to be the area of cross section into the length, the cylinder. Say if you take a cylinder or any cross section, so it will be dA cos theta into Vd into t. That is the volume. Now there are several electrons within this volume. So we assume N, which is called as the number density of free electrons. Number density of free electrons. It is in numbers per meter cube. So obviously the number of electrons would be in the volume. The number of electrons in the volume would be N into the volume, that is dA cos theta into Vd into t. The charge would be, this is the number of electrons, the charge in the volume will be E into, E is the charge on each electron. Okay, E is the charge on each electron. So E into N into dA cos theta into Vd into t. That is the charge. Now you must note the electrons are drifting like this. So the leading electrons are all here. So let us say they have crossed this area and moved this distance Vd into t. Now the leaders have reached here. All these followers have also crossed this particular area. The leader crossed it, and whatever is behind them has also crossed it. So this entire charge within this volume, that much charge has flown through this area. So that must be the charge which has flown. So the current I or Di, if I call it, the current Di would be, yes, E into N into dA cos theta into Vd into t divided by the time, because it is per unit time. So put the time here, time will cancel. And one small modification we need to do. We said that the direction of the conventional current is opposite to the drift velocity. Since we have put Vd here, we will introduce a minus sign here. So therefore, we have di as N E V D dA cos theta, that is the minus N E V D A cos theta. Now we will substitute for Vd this expression. This expression for Vd we will substitute. In a scalar form, because this is not still in the vector form, we will write this as Ne Vd is minus E tau by Me into E into dA cos theta. So this is going to be minus n plus Ne squared tau by Me into E dA cos theta. Yes. So now di again, let me rewrite that. Di can now be written as n e squared tau by me. Now e is a vector, dA is a vector. The angle between e and dA is theta. So this can be written as into e dot dA. This quantity n e squared tau number density, charge on the electron, which is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb, relaxation time or the average time between collisions, divided by the mass of the electron, 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kg. All these terms is called as sigma, the conductivity of the metal or conductor, So we will write di as sigma E dot dA. Sigma E dot dA. Now we already saw, we know that di is J dot dA. So if you compare these two, J must be equal to sigma E. So the current density J is equal to sigma into E. Okay. Now this is nothing but Ohm's law. You might say, sir, we have never learned Ohm's law like this. Well, we know Ohm's law is potential difference V is equal to IR, current into the resistance. Well, this is the vector form of the Ohm's law. This is the scalar form of the Ohm's law. This is the scalar form of the Ohm's law. We can easily get this scalar form from the vector form. See, we have got di is equal to J dot dA. So I would be integral di, which is integral J dot dA. Now supposing you take a simple case where the current density is constant and is also in the direction of dA. Current density is constant and in the direction of the area. Then it can come out of the integral. So you will have J dot integral dA. Integral dA gives the total area A, and this will be J into A into cos of 0 because J and A. So you get I is equal to JA, or generally what is taught in a simplistic way, J equal to I by A. This is what is generally taught. But the condition for this is J is uniform and it is in the direction of the area vector. So J is I by A. So let's take the scalar form. Let's get the scalar form. So instead of J, we can put I by A. Now for the electric field, supposing there is a conductor and you apply a potential difference by a battery, there is a V that you apply and this is L. This is L. So obviously the electrons, there will be an electric field set up and the charges would move within this. Now the potential difference is defined as the work done by the electric field per unit charge. Potential difference between 2 points is the work done by the electric field in moving a unit positive charge from one point to the other point. So the potential difference is work per charge. Now what is the work? If a charge Q is, let us say, moving, of course we know it's electron in the opposite direction, but I am taking it as Q. So the force would be Q into E. The distance travelled is L. You know force into displacement is work by the charge Q. So Q cancels. So you get E as the potential difference is V as V by L. It is also called as potential gradient. Potential gradient is any slope. So it is called as potential gradient V by L. And E is of course the electric field intensity. Electric field intensity. Both these are synonymous. Synonymous. Whether it is a potential gradient or electric field intensity, it means the same. So let's get back to this.